they did it. Guys, they finally did it. The D.N.A has been given a ton of buffs. So how does it perform now? Well, that's what this video is all about. What's going on, guys? It's Rest, and if you couldn't tell, in this video we're going to be going over the D.N.A. If you don't know, this is a series I do on my channel where I take new, old, or recently buffed items, put them up against today's current meta to see how they perform. If you enjoy or find this video helpful in any way, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It's free, it really helps me out, and I truly appreciate it. But if you don't know, the D.N.A is a legendary SMG manufactured by Maliwan, and the red text of this weapon says, "Death cannot be contained." Now, if you want to farm for this weapon, you actually have to be on Mayhem mode 6 or higher, and if you are, you're going to head over to Desolation's Edge and you're going to be farming General Tron. That is the enemy who drops it. Now, when this weapon first came out, no one used this because, if I'm being completely honest, this gun was an absolute joke. The damage on it was so lacking, and every aspect of the gun was also just lacking behind as well. The only thing that was the saving grace was the legendary effect. The cool part of this gun is that it says it's a kinetic weapon, and obviously if it's a Maliwan weapon, it's going to have elements on it, but the legendary effect makes it so it can shoot out every single element, but it's just at random. They don't have a set time on when they're going to come out. It's just random incinerate, shock, corrosive, cryo, or radiation whenever it just wants to shoot one out. So you would think on paper this gun is going to be very good, but in reality it just wasn't that good at all. So Gibrax, like I said, has went out and buffed it and gave it a ton of buffs. They increased its weapon damage, its magazine size, its fire rate, its projectile speed, and decreased its reload time. That's a whole list of stats that they did to this thing. If you want to know the exact numbers, the damage was 166% increase, the reload speed reduction was 50%, the fire rate increase was 39%, and the mag increase was 50%. That's some big numbers on all departments of this weapon, and it's definitely noticeable, but the question still remains, is it good now? After testing, I can safely say that the D.N.A is usable. I use the word usable very, very cautiously, because if you don't have a build going for this, it's not going to be good. The D.N.A is a solid all-around SMG, but it pales in comparison compared to some of the other legendary SMGs we have in the game. But you might be asking yourself, if they buffed every aspect of this weapon, why is it still not performing well? And simply, it's due to its legendary effect. The legendary effect is very cool, but it makes the gun very inconsistent. If you're going against an armor target and you're constantly just shooting out incendiary shots, because it's not on rotation, it's just whatever random element it wants to come out, and you're only shooting incendiary or shock shots out of it, and occasionally have a corrosive and cryo, you're not going to be doing much damage to that armor target, or vice versa. Obviously, if you're fighting something like Grave Ward and you're shooting corrosive and cryo or even shock shots out, you're not going to be doing a lot of damage to Grave Ward. So overall, the gun is just very inconsistent, and even after the buff, it still contains that inconsistency, and honestly, I don't know what they can do to change it unless they just completely buff the gun's damage like crazy. This gun, however, could be very well early game though, since you have access to 4 elements on one weapon, and that can be good on a plethora of characters, because early game you're not going to have, you know, anoints to give you more elemental damage or skills that's going to give you more elemental damage. The problem is that this is a Mayhem 6 drop and you cannot get it early game. And by the way, speaking of anoints and skills, later in the game this gun just becomes useless, because on some characters you can pretty much just have 2 or 3 elements on a weapon already without even having to have a specific element on that weapon. Obviously on characters like Amara, you're going to be able to get all 5 elements on one weapon at the same time, so it really makes having a gun that can shoot 4 elements out randomly just not that good. So I've been pretty negative this whole video about the D.N.A, and you might be asking yourself, well, Rest, is there any redeeming qualities to this weapon? And I'm gonna be honest with you, not really. The only redeeming quality is if you're stuck on Mayhem 6, you can go farm for this and you might have a decent usable SMG until you can start getting something else like the plasma coil, but the plasma coil isn't too hard to get anyway, as you can just go do arms race and extract it. So in all honesty, my final review of this is D.N.A is still not that good. It's just way too inconsistent even after all the buffs, and it's simply just slightly usable now. I would not recommend farming for this unless you just want the gun because you're a collector and it has a cool effect, but other than that, I see no reason, so I would definitely try to get something else. But that's going to do it all for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.